And welcome back. This is Travis.
And this is Kareem.
And this is One Hit High Points. How are we doing today? How are we feeling?
We're feeling like a hit.
A one hit.
A crusty hit. Anyways, so today, something that I'm actually pretty passionate about. Surprise. Me being passionate about something. Oh my God, it's like never before heard of. Um, so, what I decided to talk about today was based off of kind of things going on in my personal life, especially with today. A simple excuse me would suffice. Thank you.
Sorry, I was looking for something.
All right, me too. And that's my dignity. Anyway, I was at work today and I was figuring like, why are some people just so fucking mean? Like just so fucking mean. And I say that as like straightforward as it could possibly be, like fucking mean. Like I don't really give a fuck if someone is having a bad day or if someone is, used to being a certain way their whole lives. Like if society or not society, if life has not humbled you enough that you cannot like just become a decent human being in society, like a functional decent human being in society, then like fuck off. Because I've learned that in my 29 years of life, like empathy goes so far, and even though I'm probably gonna sound like I'm gonna contradict myself to a point I'm making later, it's frustrating to be a person who's like been able to be humbled by life experiences and tragedy and to still get smile and try to break the vicious cycle of hurt people hurting other people by not partaking in the two-way street of you know tension or attitude giving. It's like I don't understand why some people just feel so comfortable being like nasty and
Do you
not
think
even
that
think
they're
about.
they're actually consciously aware of what they're doing?
I
Kind
don't
of.
care. I think when you're a certain age, you have had to have been on earth enough for someone to call it out. And if you lived your whole life with no one calling it out, well, then you are clearly delusional. Because I don't think, especially in today's world, that you can fly with being like a nasty cunt. And
Don't
sorry
use
if
that
using that
word.
word. I'm sorry. We can hold on. Wait, what's a word that goes great with this? Hold on. Okay, sorry.
Wow.
We're just experimenting with these sounds, which are ridiculous. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used that word, but I will use it anyway. People are being nasty C words. See you next Tuesdays. And I, being the person that I am and the way I was raised, I tried my best to diffuse that kind of behavior. But as a person who is a person, I still have the right to feel like annoyed and feel like I need to just not always have it bottled in and all day long for 7 days a week, 30 plus days a month. I'm sitting here and I'm like always taking it in and harboring it in. And it's like at some point as an empath, you have to release what, you know, like anger and hate you're taking from other people and you're absorbing it. And
Yeah, but sometimes maybe you just need to let it go in one ear and not the other, just because people suck in the world.
no, I try to, but I think when you see the same people and over again, in your day to day life, whether it's at work or like personal relationships or just people like in
Yeah, and
your gym or
and it's
whatever it
definitely
is.
harder, coming in or like yourself working in like a more of like a service type oriented business where people are coming in and out that i- is different.
Yeah, I
Like if
guess.
it's someone that you had like relationship with, like a friend or something like that, you can call them out on their behavior of them acting, bitchy and things like that. But I guess like when it's a customer coming in, it's a little hard, and I think that's kind of where you're somewhat
Listen,
torn
if
a
I
little
had a
bit.
business, like if I had a business like the one that I'm working at, or any business for that matter, obviously this is like a podcast, so it's a different thing. But I talk to people, the tone that people give to me, I'm learning to just kind of give it right back, and not even in a way that is like verbally violent or aggressive, but more in a way that kind of tries to highlight their behavior. So like if someone's talking really passive aggressively to me, I'm actually overtly nice because I want them to know that you sound like an asshole. Like you just sound like an asshole. And I want when you're an asshole and you're loud about being an asshole, I'm purposely really nice loud. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm so
But that's the
sorry.
best
Like,
thing you can do is
yeah.
just kindness kills.
Yeah,
Just fight
but
back
I'm not even
with
trying to be like
kindness.
sarcastic with the nice. Like I'm genuinely like truly like sorry and like empathizing, like whatever it takes. And I'm making the person look at the situation and how drastic it's me trying to do better or be better in something that they themselves feel like they're a clown because they're like, think about what you're getting upset over. Nothing.
Yeah, but I
Literally
also
nothing.
think that most of them are oblivious to it.
Well, if they're oblivious, then guess what? Everyone, at least in the
because
surrounding area, gets a good
a lot
laugh.
of
They
them,
get a good laugh.
a lot of people think that they're entitled for things that they should get something. Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they got a good laugh. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's just people suck at the end of the day, and the one thing that I've kind of learned through the years is just kind of like you have to deal with that. And what I mean by is like you yourself have to learn how to deal with other stupidity.
Well,
And
I was walking outside, and I had to take a hit because outside because I was like, at first I was like, no, I'm doing a great job and not having to resort. What? Yes, I was doing a good job at not we can't sing songs because we're not we have to pay for copyrights, and I don't want to sing songs on here right now. We make our own songs on this channel
Oh yeah,
or our podcast. Listen,
one hit hitters,
uh,
one hitters.
so what I wrote when I was outside, and I thought to myself, I'm like, does doing bad things habitually make you a bad person? If we consciously and habitually sacrifice our own morality to fit to general society standards, does this in turn become a trade-off for accountability? And I wrote that because I thought about it, and I was like, if someone lives their life without having a refined self-awareness and they're technically doing things that are not necessarily ethical or moral habitually and it's bad, does that make that person a bad person, or does it make them, circumstantially unaware? Like, what makes a person a bad person? And I thought to myself, just because someone's maybe not aware does not mean to some degree that life has a way of showing you signs, and it's up to you as a person, as a functional person, or even a semi-functional person, to view those signs. And whether you're godless or not, I feel like there's still a a human decency that's acknowledged somewhere within our consciousness that tells you when you're not treating people well, or like, to some degree, obviously, if you're like on the severely mentally ill scale, like and you're not like necessarily able to be cognitive in ways that
Yeah,
average
but
people
you
are, that's a different story. But I'm talking about people that generally are functional. They go to work, they follow a good routine or schedule, but they also have a habitually bad thing, whether it's a way of talking to people or a bad habit that affects other people other than themselves. And I'm talking about if someone decided to, I don't know, purposely smoke cigarettes in front of someone who always sat in this one spot, and now this person's always smoking cigarettes in front of them, and they don't give a hell that they want to stand in that one spot outside, knowing that they can easily move to another spot that's not. It's just like, that's probably a
yeah,
bad example, but
but at the same time in my mind is if you're observing those two, the one guy smoking and the other guy not smoking, that's their problem. That's not your problem. And unfortunately, the issue is
no, it
coming
is my
through
problem. It
you.
is my problem because then when I become that person I'm referring to in a situation, I'm not saying the cigarette situation actually happened to me. I wouldn't really care. Like, whatever, secondhand
Yeah,
smoke,
it's a
like, give me
metaphor
it.
that
I don't
we're
mind.
using here, you know.
I'm just saying, like, if I was the other person in the scenario where someone was being disrespectful towards me, and I'm seeing it's like an immoral, unethical way of doing things, especially when it's a common courtesy based relationship. I don't know you and you don't know me. So therefore, like, I think respect should be kind of mutually given to at least a standard degree. And what makes that person a bad person? If they're acknowledging it, or are they free of being a
Well, see,
bad
I
person
think
because
that's
they
the
don't
key piece
acknowledge
right
it?
there. If the person being affected by it is so worked up about it that I've been doing this, and like they can't be necessarily like they should just expect them. It should be that if they have an issue with it, they should speak up and say, "Hey," and address the problem
Oh, I
themselves.
understand. That's what I'm saying. But what declares a person a bad person? If they habitually do bad things with awareness versus unawareness. This is the question I'm posing.
I don't know if we know that answer. I think that's kind of all left up to judgment at the final day. It's
No, but
and one and
I'm talking about right here, bitch. Like, I'm trying to say, bitch, like, what, why are you acting like a fucking bitch? Why are you acting like a fucking
but isn't
asshole?
that perspective? One
No.
person, if you have two people observing the same person, one might say that that person's doing something rude or uncalled for. The other might say, no, it's fine. I don't find it rude. So how do you handle a situation when it's perspective?
Okay, so that's why I tried to use a cigarette example, because it seemed a little bit more like that's fucked up. Like, I tried to do something that affects someone's actual health. So that objectively is considered bad. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So that's why I try not to use a like social interaction necessarily, because I feel like, yes, there's two sides and two perspectives to every, you know, uh form of communication with another person. However, I think that if there's things, okay, so for example, if you know, if your best friend was getting cheated on, but you knew that if the best friend were to find out that they were getting cheated on, it would destroy the marriage and potentially the kids' like upbringing and whatever. But then at the same time, you know that you have a moral obligation to do so, and therefore you're not doing it, but you watch this person habitually do something to your friend. Do you say something or don't say something? And what declares you being bad in the situation? Like, if objectively a person can say, well, no, they're doing the right thing by keeping the marriage together, and the other person say, no, they're actually
But
making
that's
that person live a
between
lie.
them. That's not where I would ever get involved in that
Okay, what if it was my own
situation.
sister?
I wouldn't get involved. It's that that's their relationship is their relationship.
And I'm not saying that this is actually happening to my sister. I'm saying just in general, if this was someone I'm relating to or someone that's directly in my circle.
You're
What if,
torn between it, especially because you don't want to see the
okay,
person.
fine. If I was a cheater, if I Kareem Christopher Jesus was a cheater on you, okay, and I did it every day and justified it every single day because I said some fucking BS excuse, would that make me a bad person?
Mm, if I understand it right, as in you're withholding. Oh wait, you cheating? Yeah,
So why? Why? What makes it me a bad person in that situation?
because that's not the definition of the relationship between the two of us.
But is it bad because I'm aware I'm doing something bad, or do you think it's bad because I'm unaware of me affecting you? Like, do I if I was aware that I was hurting you while doing it, and knowing that I'd hurt you while doing it, does that make me a bad person?
I think regardless of however you would feel about it, it's more of the opposite of how I feel about it.
Okay, so that's my point. Is exactly what you're making. Is that what if we consciously and habitually sacrifice our own morality to fit into general society standards, which is an example I use because, side bitch culture, cheating culture, open relationship culture, polyamorous relationship culture is all very standard society, way of dating right now. Does this in turn become a trade-off for accountability? That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like, what makes a person a bad person? Is it only based off a specific circumstantial situation, or is a person technically considered an immoral and bad person in general because of the harm they do to others habitually? Just because something affects you,
Yeah,
does that make them a bad? Like, for example, if someone cheated on
yeah,
me, do I want to think they're a bad person, or do I want to say that
but there's
they
a
did a
difference.
bad
If
thing?
it's a third party looking in, that issue is between those two other people, and the third party is not like is not
Okay,
morally
is a
accountable
war
for it.
leader is one that in particular in history that murdered a lot of people? Would he be considered a bad person, or just a person who did bad things?
He's a bad person.
Okay, so he's a bad person because why? He habitually killed and did bad things. Whether it was consciously knowing that he was being bad and
But I
killing
think I
people
think
or
the piece
not.
here where it gets a little difficult and shady, or shady as in like a gray area, it would be more of like, what is that bad thing we're trying to classify? Killing people, sure, you can classify that
Killing,
person.
cheating, stealing, lying, seven deadly sins. Like, I mean, I can put it in a little song for you too. Wait, where's this one song? Hold on. What is this one? Yeah. Yeah, seven deadly sins. Oh, okay.
Well,
So that's what I'm trying to talk about. It's like the things that would basically be on the moral compass or the moral scale or the moral spectrum is if those
but that's
things are
a
done.
larger problem right there. Is that we've kind of lost hold of that moral thread that ran through most of life because
So
everyone's abandoned it.
what would you consider a bad person?
Today.
What would you consider a bad person? Just whatever. What would you consider a bad person?
Definitely like anyone that kills anyone,
Okay.
or rapists, child molesters,
Okay.
um, even theft, stealing that's not yours. You're actually putting someone down when you're doing that. You're disrespecting them. Like even cheaters would fall in there. But if someone kind of walked up and started smoking in my face, I would be irritated, and I think that person's a
And they
piece of
didn't care, and they
and
looked at you and said,
and
"I
I
don't
think that
care."
person's a piece of shit. But would I classify him as a bad hitter? No, or not a bad hitter, a bad person. I don't know him enough to make the judgment. Is kind of how that little scenario goes.
So this all
I'm not
kind
gonna
of
write him
goes.
off.
There you
It's
go.
got
So you're helping kind of like develop my point. So this is what I'm trying to bring up. This point is because we were living a a world of condemnation and cancel culture, right? So my frustrations with people doesn't necessarily mean that I condemn the person. It makes me feel like now it's a challenge or a mission. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I get frustrated because I'm a human and I have a right to vent out loud in the space or privacy of my own home and or
Mm-hmm.
this podcast. But it also doesn't make me want to combat or challenge the person like in a way to win, but more like how can I help this person break this vicious cycle of hurt people hurting others. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it will come for your ego and your pride if you try to live this way. But I'm telling you, the empowering feeling that you get from trying to dissuade someone from continuing that behavior, and you see a growth and change every single day from the relationship
Mm-hmm.
being like they're an asshole to you to now they have some form of respect for you. That to me is like the greatest feeling in ever in any human interaction, is to kind of like get that mutual respect with someone, not because you demanded it, but because you offered compassion and perspective through your empathy, and then you kind of like helped heal them and maybe inspired them to, in some way, shape, or
But you're
form,
never going
offer
to get
that.
to that point on someone you just met.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I know that, but
Yeah.
I'm just like further
Do you
clarifying.
want
Like
to fight right
it's
now?
no, I'm not being confrontational.
I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to be silly.
I will fight you and your broke knees to the ground.
Um,
But no, you have to get to know someone, and then you can have that conversation. If someone starts disrespecting or being an asshole or something like that, and then you like you're saying you're trying to make them grow and learn.
yeah, but again, this is also not without like limitations. Like also, you still need to follow like. Oh wait,
Basic common courtesy
yeah,
and
like you still need to
like
hold on.
manners is really where I think you're getting down to, is that we kind of lost touch to just being polite, being holding the door if someone
You
has
can
stuff,
only be, you can only, and I'm not saying this to say that like in every single aspect of your life, you must be the empath, you must be the most compassionate. I'm not saying that. As a human being, you have a right to also, you know, stand up for yourself and to also stand up for truth and to really not back down simply because it's easier to just like suck it up and walk away. No, sometimes it's more effective, you have to learn how to differentiate, but sometimes it's more effective to actually stand your ground and really speak truth and not necessarily
hmm
aggressively, but assertively, and to really just, know yourself and know your, be confident in what you're saying and make sure what you're saying is actually obviously true. And always go by facts because, like,
and be
honestly,
polite.
I always believe facts truly don't care about your feelings. And as much as I can bitch, cry, and moan about certain things in my life, at the end of the day, there really is a fact, and there's also my experience. And
hmm
my experience may not always align with facts in terms of like just because I feel like sometimes the role of, like, and I'm not saying that the victim mentality is not something that I'm not guilty of sometimes. Like every now and then you always feel like, damn it, man, like why do things happen so back to back like this? But I've gotten better so much with ridding of that victim mentality. And I think that, the more and more we live by this victim mentality, the more and more we feel bad for ourselves. We don't grow. We don't learn. I also forgot my point because I feel like the high just kicked in. But, um, back to yeah, being conscious or unconscious of whether or not you're being an asshole. Does that make you a bad person? And I think it
and I
really
think
goes based off the circumstance. And I don't believe in condemnation, but I do believe in, at some point you could be declared a bad person if you don't. Just because I call you a bad person doesn't mean I won't ever want to believe that there's hope for you or that there is growth or change that's to be had. But I
what
believe
you do is when someone does something to you like that, and then you see them again, you kind of almost put like a barrier around yourself, as in you're a little more guarded of the person, because you're now subconsciously telling yourself, this person did me wrong once. If I let them do it again, it's more shame on me type thing.
well, what does a parent say to their child when they do something bad? Bad, bad, or to an animal or your pet? Bad, bad. You,
Yeah.
you say bad, right? Because it's a bad thing that you want them to stop that bad habit, right? Early on. So now if someone is habitually doing bad things, so like consistently every day, it's a bad habit. Now, if that person's conscious of that, I think it makes you a bad person. And
hmm
if you're unconscious of it, I still think to a degree makes you a bad person. Because I do think to some degree, if you are able to be cognitive and to function and having 9 to 5 or a job, whatever, you should fucking know if you're doing bad things habitually.
hmm
And if no one's called you out before, then I feel like everyone around you is fucking either lying to you or you're just beyond delusional. Okay, and maybe sometimes in this day and age, but actually I was gonna say being delusional is better. No, it's not. No, it's not, because I feel like all of society has become delusional and everyone
A
is,
good number of them are.
oh my God. Can we talk? Well, we'll talk about it in another episode about how freaking divided people are on the political scale these days. I mean, I'm literally just in the middle trying to make it till tomorrow because I see the power in being able to be open-minded and to always have a free mind rather than a cult or herd mentality mind. There's nothing more terrifying than this
Yeah.
collective mindset, right? Where everyone believes everything that someone says simply because something's aligned with how they feel as a person or things that they agree with. So then, therefore, everything they say must be politically correct or spiritually correct or morally correct. The same way that some people like worship celebrities because they are so influenced by their work that even when there are controversies or things that have exposed like certain evils, or and I'll say evils not necessarily in the devil biblical way, but even in just like how they treat people or whatever, that stuff's overlooked simply because they're only willing to look at the cult that
Yeah.
is that love for their celebrity. And that's how I feel like woke culture has become and like Puritan culture has become. It's like they're both on the hyper
Extremes.
extreme spectrum, and I think people in the middle are just trying to say, hey, listen, like to each their own, but also leave like the children alone, leave like highly influential children alone, because neither side is technically correct at all, actually like far from correct, and the people in the middle are able to kind of like actually say this is right and this is wrong with a clear head, because they know that it doesn't just benefit them,
Mm-hmm.
it benefits overall society to focus and follow a moral compass while also remaining true to facts, and facts that advance us as a humanity, as a species.
Mm-hmm.
So that will definitely be for another episode. I mean, I totally rambled on in this one, and I'm sorry I totally overpowered you, but I had a lot of emotions built up for today, and I needed to get this out. And I think that's why this podcast is like my therapy cast.
Therapy cast.
Therapy cast.
All right. Thanks for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Well, do you have any like
Have
notes?
notes.
Yeah, do you have any notes to say? Any commentary to add to all of that?
Be polite. Hold the door for people. Don't be rude. Be kind of like self-aware, kind of like what we talked about before, kind of goes hand in hand with this. Like be aware of like your surroundings, and kind of, if you see someone, just always think of, I wonder how their day is going. And then hopefully they're doing the same thing, and be a nice little conversation, and go about the world, one hit at a time.
I like that.
And
One hand at a time.
so yeah, those are my closing remarks for the day.
Yeah, I like the closing remarks. So we'll see you guys on, or well, you'll hear us and you'll see us on the next episode.
And don't forget, if you like this podcast, give us some feedback.
Yeah, give some feedback. Let
Check
me know
out
if
the
I'm an annoying
Instagram.
bitch or not. Check out the Instagram. Check us out on all the other streaming platforms that we're on. There should be all of them back on the bottom there.
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
And yeah, stay open minded and also stay
Hi.
high.
Have a great night. Bye.